Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Sangeeta, Assistant Professor in Management, Maharaja Agrawal University, Himachal Pradesh, India, and my co-author Dr. Vinay Chamoli. He is Associate Professor in Department of Tourism and Hospitality, Maharaja Agrawal University. And the topic we are going to present in the conference is US subprime crisis, origin and causes. These are the content of our study: introduction, literature review, research methodology, causes of subprime crisis, conclusion, and last one is the bibliography. Next comes the meaning of subprime lending. Subprime crisis started due to subprime lending by the banks. Bank offer loans to the customer who does not fall in the category of good credit history borrowers due to their low income and bad credit history and unassured employment status. There are some risks related to subprime lending. The first one is credit risk, that is non-payment by the customer to the banks. Second one is the asset price risk, that is change in the price of mortgage asset at the time of selling, and liquidity risk is complexity of converting asset into liquid asset. Then last one is counterparty risk, that is risk related to all the parties. These may be banks, financial institutions, investors, and etc. This diagram explains the reasons of subprime crisis. It is all about in 2006 when the interest rate were very low in US and the house market prices were very high, and the ninja borrowers, that is non-income, non-job and not asset peoples, were able to avail loan from banks at cheap interest rate, and they were also able to repay the loan by selling their mortgage assets. Then at one point of time, when the supply of the houses start declining, the declining trend started, and situation goes worse, and the customer were not able to repay their loans. Then comes the securitization and mortgage backed asset securities, and the credit rating agencies, they were not giving the right rating to their financial institutions, and they were not following the norms. It all collapsed, and the housing boom, these all result into the housing bubble crisis. Here the question arises, why subprime lending? It's all about money. Yes, banks charge from the subprime lender higher than the prime lender. It's all about money. Because they forecasted the rising trend in the housing market, but the situation goes wrong, and opposite to that, housing market start declining. That's why they were not able to pay, customers were not able to pay their loan to the banks. Literature about this study throw lights on reasons of subprime crisis. Many authors like Case and Schiller, Tong, Mizan, Murthy, Vishwanathan, they explore the reasons of subprime crisis. They have found that the main reason of the subprime crisis were low interest rate, leverage, excess leverage policy by the Federal Reserve, and the declining trend of housing market. Research methodology of this topic include research design, which is conceptual because it is based on the literature review in the past about this topic, and the objective is to highlight the main roots and causes of US subprime crisis. Next comes the causes of subprime crisis. The first one is careless mortgage lending. Banks were offering loans to the customer at cheap interest rate. That was the main reason behind the starting of subprime crisis. Then comes the housing bubble. Housing bubble start when the property prices start declining, and then worldwide imbalances means surplus and deficit imbalances. Some economies were in deficit, some economies were in surplus. That create the imbalance in the economies. Next comes the securitization. The first agency was the Freddie Mae and Freddie Mac, who issued securitized product, and then after private bank also started selling securitized product. This create the competition among the bankers. Then is lack of transparency and accountability in mortgage finance. There was no transparency in the banking system. They were not following the norms, and the interests were very low, and the accountability was zero. Next is the rating agency. Subprime lending, the main reason was interest rate, and then second one is the rating agency. The rating given by these agencies were very poor. They give triple A to the financial institution who were not offering good loans to the customer. Next is the off balance sheet finance. Off balance sheet finance means banks were capable to move their asset to the securitized products and special purpose vehicles that create complexity in the market. Next is the government mandate the subprime lending. US government, the Federal Reserve Bank mandate the other banks to lower the interest rate for the customer to help the lower class people. Another causes include failure of risk management system. The US government or banks were not able to categorize the risk in asset risk, market risk, credit risk, or counterparty risk, and the financial improvement and complexity in the instruments. That time they introduced securitized products, special purpose vehicles. People were not capable to understand that complex instruments, and the bad computer model, which were the main cause of failure, because they were not predicting the actual situations, and excess leverage policy by the Federal Reserve, and the relaxed mortgage policy, and then the short-term incentive. These were related to the brokers. They charge their commission. They provide customer to the banks in this type of situation. They were providing customer to the banks because they were greedy, and they're providing more and more customers to the banks. Next is the research limitations. This paper explain only about the causes or roots of US subprime crisis, and this study is basically based on the home country, US country. This study does not include any other country, and the steps taken by the US government were not discussed in this study. Last, we can conclude that it was very hard to pin down the exact reason of US subprime crisis, but based on the literature review, we have found that there were many reasons of US subprime crisis. These includes failure of credit rating system, bad prediction model, low interest rate, excess leverage policy. And for future research, I would recommend that if in future this type of crisis arises, there should be a transparency in the banking regulatory system, and there should be a simplex model to predict the financial position. At last, I would like to thank all the organizing team member of the conference for inviting us, me and my co-author, in the conference, and giving me the opportunity to present my paper in the conference, and wish you good luck for the upcoming conferences. Thank you very much.